My name is Nicola. I'm the HR manager here at TribalScale, and myself and Alyssa are going to be running you through our experience and our tips and tricks on how you can stand out during your co-op placement. So as I said, I'm the HR manager here at TribalScale. I'm responsible for everything related to recruitment, employee engagement, culture, any employee initiative at all related to policies, immigration, etc., comes through us. Also, I play a big part in building out the co-op program here at TribalScale. So I definitely have lots of tips to share with you all. Now I'll hand it over to Alyssa, who can introduce herself.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the marketing coordinator here at TribalScale. And I also do some stuff on the operations side. But I'm graduated from university in 2020, so I was not a student that long ago. So I have sort of my own experience with co-op as well, and I'm excited to share my tips and tricks as well.
Great, thanks Alyssa. So agenda for today will be building your resume and portfolio, creating your LinkedIn profile, how to stand out, how to ace your interview, some common interview questions, and how to make the most of your co-op term. So I'll hand the mic back over to you, Alyssa, so you can get straight in.
Sure. So first, going to start out with tips for building your resume and portfolio. So just to kind of start out, I would say the biggest thing is with resumes and portfolios, there are different layouts and requirements for different fields. It depends sort of what career path you're on. So for marketing, engineering, etc., whatever sort of field you're in, there's going to be a different standard layout and different requirements for your resume, your portfolio. And I would say the first thing you should do is do your research. I did this myself with marketing. We have kind of a standard format that we follow, and it's different from like engineering or whatever. So I would say the first thing is to do your research and find out what those requirements are, what people in your field, how they structure their resume and portfolios. You want to make sure you're following that. So that's kind of my first most important tip to start out with. And then from there, these are just some general tips that apply to everyone for their resume and portfolio. The first thing is to wow from the first page. So for me, my resume is actually just one page, but I know certain people in different fields whose resume or portfolio are multiple pages. And that first page is the first impression, and you want to make sure that you're kind of wowing people from that first page. A lot of the times people might just glance at your first page. So you want to make sure that it stands out and you're getting across everything you need to from that first page. Second thing is make your resume and portfolio unique and show your personality through it. So, every resume and portfolio, they all look the same. They're all the same sort of thing. A lot of the times they can all just sort of blend into one, especially if a recruiter or someone is looking at like multiple or hundreds in a day, right? So you need to make it unique somehow, some way, and show your personality through it. That's kind of an area to communicate like who you are. So definitely try and do that in some sort of way, whatever that is for you specifically. Another thing is making it skimmable. This is super important. Again, like I said, sometimes people just glance at resumes or portfolios. They don't have time to like seriously sit down and like look at it in depth, or they might just kind of peek at it here and there. You want to make sure it's skimmable. So that means using white space, using headings, just really like putting work into structuring it in a way that if someone were to just skim it, they could kind of get an understanding and quickly understand what they need to from it. So yeah, definitely make it skimmable. The next thing is show the work you want to do, even if you have to make it up. So this applies more for portfolios. Portfolios are a place where you're showing off your project experience, any work experience, and you kind of are going a little bit more in depth on that work and what you accomplished. So if you are applying for a job and you don't have experience with that type of work, whatever it may be, you don't panic. You can always just make something up. Do your own project on your own time in that sort of area of work to showcase that you have that skill set and you can do that work. It doesn't need to come from an actual experience. I think if people see that you've taken the time to do that, like they're equally as impressed in my mind. So definitely show the work, make up the work that you want to show, basically, if you don't have that work. That's definitely a big tip. The next is linking your resume and portfolio to each other. They should be linked so that people can easily navigate between the two, and also link both of them to your social media. So LinkedIn, for example, you want to make sure someone can easily navigate between the two, and then to your LinkedIn or other social media pages that you'd like to share. You need to have that easy access. It makes their job quick and simple, basically. And kind of coming off of that point is updating your URL links and making sure they actually work. It's a huge turnoff when someone clicks on a link and it leads them somewhere they're not supposed to go, or it doesn't lead anywhere, just a dead link kind of thing. It's such a simple thing to just check if those work, and you'd be surprised how many people don't check or don't take the time to do that. So that's another tip I want to leave you with. And the last thing is, this is sort of a bigger tip, and kind of, it takes more effort, I would say, but curating what you show and tailoring the messaging for the role that you're applying for. It can be time consuming sometimes, but it makes so much difference if you take the time to just slightly change, even in terms, let's say you have like 8 job experiences, but only 2 or 3 or 4 of them really apply to the job that you're applying for, basically. Curate that. And then within those things, maybe change your messaging. Like, look at what the job requirements are for the job you're applying for. Look at what sort of person they're looking for, and maybe change what you're saying about each past role that you've been, a part of. Just changing that messaging to align better with the role that you're applying for is huge, like makes such a huge difference. So that's the last tip I'm going to leave you with. And we can get into the next part, which is your LinkedIn profile. So this is going to be similar to my tips for portfolios and resumes, because your LinkedIn is kind of just it's very similar to both of those things. The first thing is first impressions matter. So your high-level profile information should be impactful and concise. So your profile link is going to get shared most likely with many people. It could be through text, Slack, other places, wherever. And when people kind of click into your profile, they should get a very clear understanding about you from just that high-level profile information at the top of your profile page. And that's going to be their first impression, whether you like it or not. So you really need to put the effort in for just that top part especially. So that means having a professional cover photo. A lot of the times, universities will have like sessions, or they have events where you can attend and get a free headshot of yourself. I definitely recommend this. I did this as a university student, and that's kind of where I got my first set of professional headshots from. And then I was able to use that in various places. I definitely recommend this. Or if you don't have that availability, just having some sort of professional photo of yourself. Going with that is the professional background. Have it nice, clean, simple. Adding your pronouns, I would recommend that you do that if you choose to. Adding the pronunciation of your name as well. I totally get this. My last name is super confusing for people, and sometimes it's it can be awkward for people. and they want to make sure they get your name right when they're speaking to you. So if you can see in the image on the right hand side, that little audio button, that's where if you press that, it's just a recording of yourself kind of pronouncing your name. I would definitely recommend you add that. It really helps. And a huge part of this is your tagline. So your tagline should be eye-catching, but it should also be informative. So the examples on the right-hand side, product designer at TribalScale, that says what this person's current role is. Management engineering at University of Waterloo. Okay, I know what program and what school they go to. Seeking fall 2022 internships. Okay, they're looking for positions in the fall. Like, that says everything right there in that little tagline. On top of that, these taglines are usually searchable. So you can search seeking fall 2022 internships on LinkedIn. And if you have that in your tagline, it actually, you're now part of those search results kind of thing. So that's another huge tip. The next is ensuring your program and school are added under education. So again, with the example on the right, this person has added their current place of work and their current university program and school. So it does show up there, and you can see it from that high-level profile section. Right away, I know where they work, where they go to school. So, and then the about section is right underneath your high-level profile. And it is basically a brief description of yourself. Again, this is an important section to kind of think about and play around with messaging. You want to make sure in that little section that you're getting across everything you need to in that little description. If someone reads that about section, they should have a good understanding of who you are and what you want to do, kind of thing. So yeah, first impressions matter. Definitely take the time to do these things. And moving on to the next slide. Awesome. Okay. So adding your experiences. Obviously, and this is not just work experience. That's kind of the main point to get across here. You should be adding your education. You should be adding extracurricular activities. You should add volunteer work. And on top of that, job experience, any job experience that you have. Sometimes you don't really have that much job experience. You just have volunteer work or extracurricular activities because, you're just a new student, and that's totally fine. But add all of those various types of experiences. Some people try to leave out volunteer work or extracurricular stuff because they think it's not relevant. It is relevant. Like, just because you're not getting paid to do something doesn't mean you're not learning something from that job. And it's not like contributing to your skill set in some way. So definitely add all those things. And on top of that, don't just add the experience in and not elaborate on it. You should be adding brief points for each experience and kind of to give some insight on your role and what you accomplished for each of those experiences. It should be just a short bullet point. Don't leave paragraphs or anything, but short and concise, and to get that point across. So yeah, definitely take the time to add all these experiences. And then, yes, perfect. So the last thing is highlighting your skills, any certifications and other. So this is like basically what I think is the best part of LinkedIn. Is these sort of sections here. So the first is linking, again, your portfolio, any apps, personal projects, blogs, websites. Again, you need to link this stuff for easy access, like I mentioned before. And these next 3 points are kind of, like I mentioned, my favorite part of LinkedIn. So you can add your skills. So the image on the right-hand side, you see skills and endorsements. So this person's added marketing, social media, and digital marketing, and they've been endorsed by some of their colleagues wherever this person has worked before. So add your skills and utilize your student network to endorse each other. I did this like when I was in university as well. me and my schoolmates, people in my program, we would add our skills in, and then we would endorse each other because we worked with each other on multiple projects, and I felt like my whole program was group work. So we had a very good understanding of how each of us worked and what we were capable of. So we had the ability to endorse each other for these skills. And that looks really good when you do that. So definitely do that. That's like really important. Another thing is skill badges. So in that section, if you click on take skill quiz, there will be a bunch of different skill badges that pop up. They might even pop up when you're applying to jobs. It will ask you if you'd like to take different, skill quizzes and receive badges. Do that stuff. Like people, recruiters, they see that stuff and they can see, okay, this person has passed this little quiz. They have this sort of skill set, like they have that understanding. And it again shows in this skills and endorsements area on your profile. And the last part is adding any certifications for tools or software or whatever that you've completed. So this is really important because education, when you're done school, it continues. I'm sure at some point all of you might do some sort of certification or course or online designation or something or other. And this is an important section to highlight that. A lot of the times you can learn a lot more through those types of things. And they might even be like required for certain jobs that you're applying for. So you should definitely add these in here. So when people view your profile, they know that you have that certification or designation or whatever. So yeah, that's my last tip for LinkedIn. And I'm going to hand it to Nicola to talk about how to stand out as a co-op student.
Nicola, you might be muted. Oh, I think I...
Thank you, Dima.
No worries.
Thanks. Brilliant. Thank you so much for them points, Alyssa. So now I'm going to jump into steps to make you stand out. I have worked in recruitment for about 6 years now, and I've seen it all. I've seen every resume you can only imagine, every LinkedIn profile, and I've been in every different type of interview setting as well. So here are my steps to make you stand out and what I've seen works. So first thing, kind of link it back to what Alyssa was saying, keep your LinkedIn up to date. It might seem like a very basic tip, but it's so crucial. Did you finish a website? Did you do a group project in your engineering course? If you did, add it to your LinkedIn. Did you make the dean's list? Make a post. There's absolutely options there to make a post announcement that goes on your feed, shares it with everybody, but also you can attach that to your LinkedIn profile to show off. Your LinkedIn profile is your online resume. So make sure it's constantly being updated when you reach your achievements. In terms of checking your emails frequently, so always ensure you respond to emails in a timely manner. Again, it might seem like a bit of common sense, but you'd be surprised the amount of emails that I've reached out to candidates to set up interviews, and they might have missed it a week later and the role is closed and they've missed out on the job opportunity. So keep on top of your emails. Another important thing is respond in a professional manner. So, begin by addressing the sender formally, whether it's dear, good morning, hello. You'd be surprised how much that goes. Start it off saying, dear Nicola, thank you for reaching out. I'm really excited to kind of move forward with this opportunity. At that stage, you can answer any questions at all. It's really actually nice to have a candidate respond with some questions. Number one, The reason being is it stands out to me that you're so interested in the role and you want to find out more. So brilliant tip there. And signing off with a professional manner. Warm regards, best wishes, whatever works for you. Just keep the consistency and the theme of your writing through the email professional. So in terms of the next tip, I'd say show enthusiasm throughout the recruitment process. Linking back to kind of, responding professionally, this is all kind of on the same team. If you are excited about a potential role, absolutely show it. I love that, especially recruiters where the job is, as I said, looking at resumes, setting up interviews on the phone, jumping into video calls. When you see someone who jumps onto a call or jumps into the interview, if it's a video interview or maybe it's in person, some are going back to in person these days, which is great. Show you're excited, bring energy, show you're really into the role, and that will really push you out in front of others more than you would even think. And then ask a question before the initial interview to ensure you're prepared for the interview. So, for example, if it's a product design role, if it's a developer position you're applying for, no problem in the email when you're confirming your availability to the recruiter. Is there anything I need to prepare for the interview? You never know. You could go into an interview, you might not have asked a question, or you might have misread previous emails or didn't see what the status for the interviews are going to be. And the recruiter could be sitting there expecting you to show your portfolio. So always, always reach out when you're confirming your availability, asking if there's anything that you need to prepare. And there we go. Another example, would I be expected to share my portfolio? Would I be expected to share any of my recent projects from university? Simple question, but sets you up and prepares you. Another thing I absolutely love, and I preach it all the time, connect with the recruiters or the hiring managers on LinkedIn. I absolutely love when I know I'm going into an interview, but that person has reached out and connected with me on LinkedIn. I put a face to the name already. I feel like, sometimes people will be like, hi, Nicola, send me a message on LinkedIn. Hope you don't mind the connection request. Looking forward to meeting you on Tuesday at 10 a.m. I am blown away. I'm like, this person's so interested in the role. They really are looking forward to meet me. We've already chatted. We're going into this interview. We've already had discussions. It's not the first time we're talking. It's brilliant and it will set you out again. It's also important because it builds your network. Networking for your career, of course, there's the learning, there's the development, there's the certification, there's education, there's a bundle of things. But the one thing I will tell you, networking is fundamental to a successful career. You need to be connecting with people who are in your network and the line of business that you're going into. Posting on LinkedIn relevant blog posts, the person who you've connected with that maybe you interviewed with 2 years ago sees your blog post, really likes it, likes the theme of your message that you're putting with it, and might say, hey, listen, really like that blog post that you shared. Would you be interested in this position? You would be surprised how often that happens. When I'm on LinkedIn and I see, potential candidates that I've kind of maybe interviewed in the past or I've worked with, and they're sharing really inspiring or interesting articles, and I'm seeing the career progress, they're in my mind. And when I think of the position, I'm like, oh, I wonder if John's available, or I wonder if Mary's available, because I can see them on LinkedIn. You'd be surprised how much that actually plants the seed in people's heads. So absolutely a crucial one. And another thing that happens a lot of the time as well, and people are always asking, Nicola, I haven't heard back from the recruiter. It's been a week now. And I'm like, have you emailed them again? And they're like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to disturb them. People feel, following up on an email, if the recruiter hasn't gotten back to you, is kind of bad. It's not professional. It's absolutely okay. And it's actually great. Believe me, if you saw my inbox right now, and I'm sure if you saw the girls on my team's inbox who are both recruiting all the time as well, you would be shocked at the number. I will not show you because you probably, you'd get a fright with the amount of unread emails, because, when you're recruiting for a role, you're constantly reaching out to people. So that number is building. So the recruiter might have reached out to you and has moved on to other positions you're recruiting for. And in that time, you responded, but your email's going down because there's new ones coming in. The minute you follow up and say, hi, Nicola, just following up on my previous email, here are my availability for interview. And give 3 or 4 slots. It just bumps your email back up, and I guarantee you the interviewer will be delighted that you did that, because you're like, wow, brilliant. This person's provider availability, I haven't followed up. That's on me. Let me get them in straight away. So that's a really good one. Do not feel strange or weird about following up on those emails. And again, be active. Sorry, Dima. Can we just go back to the last slide? Thanks. Be active on LinkedIn. Again, the theme of these, the last couple of points is LinkedIn. Following on from Alyssa, it's crucial, it's important. But if you've been hired for a role or your co-op placement, get that straight up to LinkedIn. That should be the first thing you do. Go to your LinkedIn profile, update it with your new role when you're going to start, because you can actually set it that, you know, if it's a month's time, you can put the date in there on LinkedIn and it will kind of boost that up at that time. But also, you know, it shows your excitement. You can make a post. What I love to see is, thrilled to announce that I've been successful and with my placement with TribalScale, or my co-op placement in the engineering department, starting in May 2022. I go a step further, because maybe you've already connected with the hiring manager and the recruiter. Looking forward to working on the team with John, Mary, Bob, and Mike, and tag your new team, tag your new manager. You can even tag the recruiter. Thanks so much, Nicola, really, for, you know, help me get this co-op placement. You know, it might sound a bit, you know, you're boasting, and, you know, people feel sometimes when they are putting posts up like that, that they don't want to come across like they're sharing to their network. Oh my God, look at me, I'm amazing. But that's exactly what you need to do. And as I said, going the extra mile and tagging your new manager and tagging maybe even the recruiter or the team is brilliant. So absolutely, the minute you get your co-op placement, go to LinkedIn, update the role, and make a post. It's just great, and it shows your enthusiasm. We just put some example email templates here to follow on from my tip on the previous slide about kind of remaining professional. So when kind of what I've seen is, when I set interviews up, and, you know, my team will agree with me, you know, you've responded with your availability. We have you in the calendar. We send you maybe, you know, the Google Meet or the Zoom link details of where you're going to log on. Sometimes when we send you that email or with those interview details, it goes radio silent until the day the interview happens. Now, as a recruiter, all you want to know is that the person who's getting interviewed and the co-op has received those details. So when their interview comes, you know, they're not panicking, they can't find the details, that they know how to log on to the Google Meet, they know who they're meeting with. So I would always strongly recommend sending an email when you've confirmed that that time works, you know how to log on to the Zoom, you know who you're meeting with. Just respond with a simple email saying something like this: hi Roisin, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've received this email and I'm super excited to chat with you. Best. So it literally just confirms you have the interview details, you have the link, and you're ready to go. It's so professional, and it shows you're really organized and you cannot wait to jump into that interview. Next slide, please. Thanks. It's an important thing, how to ace your interview. I get these questions all the time from friends, from family. So here are a couple of tips I've put down that I think will help. Research the company. You'd be surprised how many people don't do this. So before your interview, what I would say is jump onto the website, go to the about page, go to the LinkedIn about page of that company, read up a little bit on them, read about their values. What are they for? What do they do? What's their mission for their business? It's so, so important for 2 reasons. Number one, for you. The interview is to figure out, of course, the interviewer wants to see, do you have the skill set, you know, the right attitude for the role, and the education that's necessary. But also on the flip side of that, it's for you to figure out if this is the right co-op for you. Because, you know, the company values, and every company has values, and a lot of them are quite similar in nature, to be honest, but something always kind of differentiates companies, and it is by their values and by their mission. So read it up, get to know about them, and figure out, does this align with what you want to do for your co-op, and do you think it will be a good fit? Another thing, understanding the job description. Please read the job description. I'm sure most people have read the job description before they apply, but reread it before the interview, really kind of get an insight to the role. You actually generally, from a lot of the job descriptions, companies spend a lot of time kind of trying to get the brand messaging and the kind of tone of the company into those descriptions. So you can actually get a lot of information. You can kind of get an idea about culture by how the job description is written. Some job descriptions are very straightforward, but then there's others where you can kind of sense the personality of the company from the job description. I absolutely think that's great. So do that for that idea. Again, you need to know maybe some potential questions that the interviewer is going to ask you. And that is going to be based on roles and responsibilities and qualifications for the role. So please, read into it, see what they're looking for. You might get relevant information that will help you prepare for the interview as well. All right. Practice mock interviews, my absolute favorite thing. I've done it since I did my co-op placement back a number of years ago at this stage. But always practice, whether it's your friend, whether it's a family member, whether it's a fellow student in your course, whether it's just you in the mirror. Always practice. Have your prep questions ready, prep answers, and get the person to ask you those questions and keep asking them until it gets to the point that you don't even need to look at the page anymore. It rolls off your tongue. Honestly, I think that's so important because it kind of just gives you that extra level of confidence going into the interview. You're like, I'm prepared, I've practiced, I know exactly what way I'm going to tackle this question, and it just flows more easy. And to be honest, it just instills that confidence, which I think is really, really important. And this is kind of following on, prepare a brief description of your previous experience, whether that's volunteering, group projects, or schooling that is relevant to the role. Keep everything relevant to the role. All right. I would absolutely love to sit down and chat to everybody about every aspect of their life. I love it. I love hearing about everyone's life and what they've done and all the cool places they've gone to. However, when you are in the interview, listen to the question being asked and make sure you're responding with your answer that's relevant to that question. All right. So the way I'd always say it is, and it's kind of following into my last point on this slide, is in your preparation, set up a sample question, answer it, but color it with an example. An example of this would be, sometimes I would ask the question, have you ever dealt with a challenging situation before, whether it's in a group project or maybe a different co-op placement, and how did you overcome it? So listen to that. I'm asking, how did you overcome it? I do want to hear about the challenging situation, but I want to know really, how did you navigate that challenging situation, and show me a real life example. Now, you might not always have a real life example, but the interviewer doesn't care if you made the example up because they want to see how you approach that situation. So it doesn't matter if you never did what they asked. Just be ready to know the best way to approach what the interviewer asked. It's all about how you approach tasks and how that would relate back to the workplace and the co-op placement that you're going to do. So how I would answer that question is, yes, yeah, absolutely. I've been through a challenging situation. Actually in college, we worked on a group project. There's a number of different ideas for the theme of the project or the title of the project. I'll actually give you an example that, I want to go for this title. The three other people were kind of felt strongly about the other one. See how I'm coloring it? I'm bringing it back to a real life situation instead of going, oh yes, I've been in many challenging situations. How do I know what way you approach that? Give me the examples, color it. All right. It's really, really, really crucial. And you can prepare your examples in that preparation stage and you'll be ready to go and you'll have your examples ready in every scenario. So yeah, that's key. Yeah, during the interview, another couple of points that I think is really, really important. You'd be surprised. People get very nervous about interviews, and I totally understand why. It can be really, really daunting, especially when you're in the university and you're kind of only entering this world of interviews. And, co-op placements are so important. And, I know even myself when I was in university, going for my first co-op, I just was so excited to get it. It was so important to me. it was my first time in a big organization, you know, outside of my part-time roles. So I just was quite overwhelmed at the start, but I sat myself down and I said, these are people, you know, they are just people on the other side of the table or the other side of the screen. They just want to know about me. They chose you because they think your resume, your LinkedIn, or your portfolio speaks to the position that they're looking for. So they chose you. So that's the number one step. So always take a moment to relax right before you even log into the call, but also during it. Smile, breathe, you know, it's just a chat. And I always try and kind of maybe, you know, just before we even get into anything, I'm always like, listen, this is a chat, nothing serious at all. And like try to calm people down to, you know, set the interview up for how I want it to go. So just remember that, just relax, smile, breathe, and smiling goes such a long way as well. When you smile, you feel better in yourself. So it's a great tip there. And coming back to this, listen carefully to the questions being asked. Try not to go around in circles. You know, setting your answers up, stating your answer, coloring it an example. That's the best thing to do. Don't kind of blabble on too much about your answer without getting to the example stage. Keep it short, concise, and to the point. That's really, really important. And you know, sometimes if you feel that you've just answered it really quickly and you've gave your example and you're like, oh God, I've answered that really, really quickly. Don't worry, that's great. I love that. When someone gives me a really concise answer, gives me an example and answers all the questions that's in my head, the points I'm waiting to hear, I'm really, really happy. I'm like, this person came prepared. It's really great. Again, don't panic. When the interviewer asks you a question, give yourself a couple of seconds for your response. You don't have to jump straight in and try and just throw words out and splurge them out to the point where you're actually panicking yourself and you're saying, oh my God, this doesn't even make sense. What am I saying? Just relax. You can say, okay, that's a great question. That's something that actually fills the space. You can say, yeah, I'm just going to think, give me a couple of seconds and I'll give you my response. That's totally fine. You're like, absolutely okay. This is a chance for you to kind of use your experience, use your projects, but also to show off and, you know, give yourself a couple of minutes, well, not too many minutes to answer, but a couple of seconds to gather your thoughts on what way you want to attack that question. And those couple of seconds are totally okay. And asking the interviewer if you want, do you mind giving me a couple of seconds till I kind of think about that one for a minute? That's okay. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Again, coming back to this, you'll see my common theme here is using real experiences in your answers, especially if it's not about your competencies and skills. So that's a little bit different from the example where I did say sometimes in certain situations, you kind of make up an example to give color to your answer. But what I mean here is by use real experiences in your answer is that if you have real experience relative to the role, make sure that's in one of your answers. Get it across. Don't come away from the interview without kind of showing off a big chunk of your experience that's so relevant. Like we have all done amazing projects in university. You know, you might have done amazing co-ops previous. Make sure you tell the interview that. Make sure you tell them everything that's relevant for this position because you want to stand out for the crowd and you want to show that your experience is right for this position and that it's an easy sell. That's exactly what you want to do. So don't leave any good chunks of experiences or skills out. Get them into the conversation. And another one that I love telling people because I think it's one of these things that people don't know in interviews. It's that gray, murky area on what can you say and what can you not say. But be honest, if you don't have experience directly related to the question asked, answer with an example of something similar. You'd be surprised where or the amount of interviews I've been in, and I can see people are like struggling to think they haven't got experience in a certain thing that I've asked. That's okay. Like we don't know everything. If we did, you know, we wouldn't all be constantly learning, constantly doing certifications, going to university, taking more exams. You can actually turn around and say, you know what, Nicola, I actually don't have direct experience in that particular question or skill, say. But however, something similar that I've done in university, I took a module on statistics, and I actually think that's quite relevant to the point you just made on, let's just say, I don't know, evaluations. I'm just absolutely throwing this out there, but that's exactly what it's something similar that's relevant. So you can just say, you know what? I don't have that experience, but I've experienced in X. It's quite similar because X, Y, Z. So always link things back, be honest. Don't be afraid to say, look, I actually don't have experience in that, and linking it back to something else that's relevant. And I know everybody says it, but please have questions ready for the end. If it's something so simple like, what's the next stage of the interview process? When will I expect to hear back? What is another good question that I really actually like, and it shows that you kind of put a lot of thought into the role, and it kind of your enthusiasm comes across in the interview as well, is what does the first 30 days look like for me as a co-op in this department? That's a great question, because it shows that you want to kind of plan ahead, set yourself up for success when you start that co-op placement. So that is a really good question that I love to see people asking. Thanks, Emma. Next one, yep. And a couple of common interview questions. Okay, great. This is a good slide. We know they can be stressful, especially when your co-op placement is dependent on completing your university degree. So I totally get it. So here's a couple of common interview questions that I see and that I ask. So it always starts off, tell us a little bit about yourself. So I always say, try get your personality across here. What are you passionate about? Why did you choose this career? Why do you want to go into this line of work? What do you do outside of school, work, extracurricular? Get that speech ready. That is the speech that you want to practice in the mirror, with your family member, with your friend, with your fellow colleague or student in your placement or in your university degree. That is something you should have ready, because if you're doing 3 co-op interviews, if you're only doing 1, this is your speech for your introduction. So keep it kind of short and concise. I'd say maybe 1 to 2 minutes max, but give that idea on you. What do you do? Why did you choose this line of work? What did you study? Why did you choose that? And why do you want this kind of role? Link it all together. What type of work environment do you prefer? This is a question that gets asked a lot. But be honest, but make sure you cater your answer to the type of environment that company has. Talk about both types of environments and your experiences with them. Just make sure you tailor your question to the company and or your answer to the company. You want the position, you want the co-op placement. Every work environment, 99% of them generally will be similar, especially remote. So there's going to be if it's a fully remote co-op placement, there's going to be video calls, it's going to be remote. There might be the odd in-person day. Talk about that, figure out, go on LinkedIn, what do they do? Are other employees posting about it? And get a sense and a feel for what they're going to do. How do you deal with stressful or high pressure situations? This question comes up a lot in most interviews. It's just to really get this word of time management and planning ahead. That is what the interviewer wants to hear, that you're able to deal with managing your time. You know how to plan, you know how to organize yourself to mitigate this issue. So talk about a time where you've remained calm and you're able to successfully complete something during turmoil. So that is all we want to hear, is that, okay, everyone has been in kind of stressful situations. How do I manage my time? Well, actually, what I do is I see what my tasks are, what's the most high priority task that I need to get done, and the deadline, which one's closer. That is all we want to hear, that you're organized and you can prioritize your workload. Easy peasy, just get them words in. What would you do if you're faced with a situation where you're assigned work that you did not know how to do? Another question I love. I love this because, I always say, don't suffer in silence, all right? But to my team, they'll probably laugh when I say this. When anyone new starts to my team, what I say is, if you don't know the answer to something, go do your research. Come to me with potential answers that you think it's going to be, all right? Because 3 of those answers that you need to present to me that you think the answer might be, I guarantee you, one of them is right. And then you'll shock yourself. You'll actually instill confidence in yourself by going off doing your research, figuring out, okay, is there a guide that I was provided my first couple of days that I could use? Is there, a website, an internal company website where I can find out this information? Then if you cannot find that, reach out to your buddy, reach out to your manager for clarity, and then actually look for solutions to learn without compromising the quality of the task or the project. So in an interview, these are the steps that you can show to the interviewer that you know how to kind of mitigate that time where you're wondering what the hell you should do, how do I move forward, and that you're not stuck sitting idle, suffering in silence. It's a really great way to show that you know you're going to go off do your own research. If you can't get really much further with that, you reach out to your buddy or someone on your team or your manager, and then you never compromise the quality of the project or the task. Always finish up that question with that, because you're aware that, you know, obviously the key focus here is the task and the project, and you just want to make sure that's upheld to the best standard, and you don't want to be a part of that if it goes south. So that's really what we're looking for, is that you're taking the right steps and you know how to move on from that. Helpful tips: so be yourself, be honest, get your personality across. People are interviewing, especially recruiters, all day. It's really great when you kind of jump on the call with somebody who's enthusiastic, they're showing themselves, you're getting to know their personality, the conversation flows so much more easy. If there's a question that you couldn't answer, again, say that you don't know, but emphasize that you'll look into it and get back to them after the interview. Another great point. If you don't know the answers to the question, as I said, be honest, just say that. But what you can do is, and to go the extra mile, look, Nicola, I really don't know the answer to that question, but let me look into it, and I'd love to share my thoughts on it with you after the interview. Is that okay if I drop you an email on that? Again, music to my ears. Absolutely. I am nearly waiting for that email to come through to see what you send me. I just think it's great, shows your enthusiasm and your interest in that line of work. And again, coming back to this point, be enthusiastic and come prepared. It really does go the extra mile, and it just shows you're professional, you're interested, and you're engaged. Thank you. I'll give it back to you, Alyssa.
Awesome. So how to make the most of your co-op term when you do join somewhere like TribalScale, let's say. So this is kind of our 4-week timeline. And I think this is common across a lot of different places for co-op terms. So first week, you're meeting with your manager. This is where you're going to identify areas of interest, maybe set goals. We like to set a goal for each month that you're here with us. And this is where you're going to go over any day-to-day tasks that's going to be expected of you. So there's a lot of learning and coordinating happening in this first week to kind of set the tone. And then in week 2, this is where you're going to be, you know, reaching out to key members to help mentor you. There may be many people on this list that you might be working alongside or with and might be mentoring you. So that's going to happen here. Tracking the progress of, you know, your progress towards these goals that you've set, depending on how many there are and how you want to structure that. But you should be starting to track your progress here and ensuring you've met everyone on your teams and you feel supported. So, you know, a lot of reaching out to people in the second week. And then week 3, this is where you're going to ensure you really know your responsibilities and you feel that you're being challenged. So at this point, you're definitely getting more into project work or whatever work you're assigned. And you want to make sure that, you know, you're feeling challenged with the work you're doing and you're not just kind of sitting idle. The goal is that you leave the placement with knowledge of hands-on job experience. So it's really important. And then week 4 here, you should be definitely getting comfortable with the cadences, teams. You should know very well who your go-to people are. You should ensure that you have everything you need to reach those goals that you set out at the beginning of the term, and you should be on track to reach those goals. So at week 4, you should really be set in to the work that you're doing and work towards your goals as well. So to the next slide. So aside from, you know, just the work that you're assigned on a co-op term, what you can do is really just go above and beyond that. And I definitely, like, you know, recommend doing that, putting the work in, taking initiative and getting involved. So this is just that extra piece It teaches you so much more. You make better connections through it. Maybe you learn something new, who knows? This is just that extra step that just makes you stand out like way more apart from everyone. So getting involved, the first thing I would say is talk to your managers or, you know, your buddies or whoever that you work very closely with to find out how you can get involved and take initiative. This might look different at each sort of company, particularly here at TribalScale. These are a couple ways that you can get involved. We have a bunch of internal projects going on at all times, and you know, work on those projects kind of sometimes stops and starts, or you know, depending on people's availability and how many resources we have, there's always work for internal projects available, and you know, that help is always welcome. If that's something you want to be involved in, that's a great opportunity. Another is learn if there's a new tool or skill that you'd like to learn, maybe that you haven't tried before. There's a lot of people in our organization here that are extremely talented and have a lot of expertise. You know, and if you'd like certain people to mentor you or to learn something new from someone or have a chat, and then from that chat kind of go into your own work and learn that skill on your own, whatever it may be, like you should look into setting that up so you can learn that new tool or skill. Like that's again something that you can add to your resume. Hey, at this job, I took the time to also learn this specific tool or skill or whatever it might be. Like that looks incredible. So, and you've done that on your own. That's your own initiative. That's really, really great. Another thing is content creation. A lot of the times, like here at TribalScale, we have different sorts of pieces of content that anyone is welcome to, you know, be a part of. Blogs, white papers, educational resources, whatever it may be. If that's something you're interested in, maybe this is that new skill that you're wanting to try out, content creation or writing or whatever. This is a cool way to get involved and do that. As well as event planning. So we always have internal employee events and initiatives happening here. And if that's something that you want to try out and be involved in, that's also a great opportunity as well. So definitely like reach out to your managers, find out what the specific options are for whatever organization you're entering, and definitely just take that initiative. You're going to learn something from it. You're going to meet new people through it. It's going to contribute in the end to your development, and it looks so great on you if you do that kind of stuff. So get involved. Okay, this is just a quote to kind of cap it off. One who fears failure limits his activities. Failure is only the opportunity to more intelligently begin again. Henry Ford. So yeah, just here at TribalScale, we have this sort of mentality of fail fast. You know, that just means try things out, try new things, challenge yourself. Even if you fail, you should fail. Like you should experience that and come back, regroup and try again. Like you're only going to achieve better and greater things if you kind of put yourself out there and, you know, from failure, learn from that kind of thing. So that's our mentality here. And I encourage that mentality for each of you, especially as co-op students entering the workforce and, you know, coming into new co-op placements here and there. This is something that you should definitely strive to achieve.